All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to Commissioner Holness. Good morning to John. Good morning to the teachers and staff. We are honored and glad to have Commissioner Holness with us this morning. Before I get going, I'm Dr. Harrigan, Principal at Cypress Run Education Center. It is truly a privilege and honor to have Commissioner Holness with us. And we want to welcome also all of our students. So I'm going to introduce Commissioner Holness, and from there, we'll introduce our students who will also assist in this process. Again, thank you, Commissioner Holness, for joining us this morning. Commissioner Holness is an impactful public servant and business leader with more than 40 years of experience advocating for racial inequalities, small and minority woman-owned businesses. Named Legacy Magazine Public Official of the Year, and South Florida Chapter of American Society for Public Administration 2017 Elected Official of the Year. His political record is well documented in many years as a Lauderdale City Commissioner. That's where I first met Holness. You may not remember me. I used to work with Dr. George Fabre before he passed away. That's where I met with him with some of the events I did with that ministry. His political record is well documented in many ways. As I mentioned, Commissioner of City of Lauderdale and Vice Mayor, and currently as the Broward County District 9 Commissioner. From 2019 to 2020, Holness served as Mayor of Broward County, chairing the Broward Black elected officials and establishing a criminal justice review board. His focus will remain on generating millions of dollars for Black-owned businesses by increasing CBE participation from 10% in 2010 and beyond 39% in 2020. This is outstanding. Supporting successful campaigns for Black elected officials, providing mentorship, and leading the development of Broward Black Action Plan and the Racial Equity Task Force. Please welcome join me in welcoming Commissioner Holness.
Bonjour, buenos dias, good morning, wagwan. I'm grateful to be on with you this morning. It's an honor and a privilege to be of service in Gas Street. I do remember you from Father Fabre. Now
Yes.
You have a much bigger church somewhere else.
Yes.
So I'm grateful to be participating with you. I think, do I do a quick introduction of myself here, or where do we go?
Yes, please do a quick introduction, and then I will begin with the students. Go ahead and do a quick introduction of yourself.
So I was born in Jamaica, migrated here in 1975, went to finish my high school at Plantation High, went to Broward College for a while. Got involved in business. I own my own business and own one now for many, many years, since 1988. I've owned my own real estate company, got involved with real estate in 1983. And as a result of serving on the Political Action Committee for the Realtors Association, that really got me started into the political arena in a direct way. Before that, I'd engaged in many other ways in community organizations, Kiwanis Club, supporting other candidates. The first time I got involved politically here was for the second Black person ever elected to office in Broward County, Andrew DeGraffenwright, who was a city commissioner, a city councilman back then they were called, in the city of Fort Lauderdale. And I stayed engaged. It's about offering yourself in service to the community, finding ways and means of helping to build and strengthen all aspects of our community. So that's a little bit of my background.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Well, the students at Cypress Run have been watching the news over the past few months, and they have seen all of the injustice, the different things that affect their neighborhood, that affect them personally. And they thought about it. They have watched certain videos. They have wanted to find a way that they could be a part of a bigger picture, part of something that brings change to their community, something that's driven by them. So the students here at Cypress Run would like to ask you, how can they be a part of that change? And they would like to ask you several other questions that they're curious about. We have one student right now that's on the panel, Raul, that he's gonna ask you some questions. He's one of our high school students. And I have several other questions from other students. Well, Raul is representing our student body right now. And after the questioning from the first set of students, I would like to take questions from the audience. But first, we have a few student questions that we would like to answer. Raul.
Hello.
Go ahead, you can share yourself on the screen.
Wait, is my camera on?
No, your camera is off.
Okay. We're seeing you.
Now we've seen you.
Yes.
Okay.
Back.
All right.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want to thank the commissioner. It's an honor having you be here, and thank you for everyone participating. Thank you for the teachers and for everyone coming here, but especially the commissioner. He took his time to come here and talk to us. So if I can begin some questions. Okay, I can begin the questions now?
Just Raul.
Okay. Well, my first question would be, how can funding be provided specifically towards police training in order to avoid mistreatment to minorities?
So there is funding for training. It's the type of training that needs to be emphasized, that the sheriff's office need to do. The budget for each police department have funding there. Part of what we need to do is put in place more training for what's called crisis intervention training. And that's when you deal with people who are mentally ill, who might have drug addiction, and when you have domestic issues. The police need to be better equipped, in my mind. And the truth is that they ought to be bringing social service people with them and psychologists with them on these types of calls. It's not as when someone's breaking into a house or some other situation where someone's lives might be directly endangered. We need to work to do de-escalation training, where a policeman doesn't come out and the first thing they do is pull a gun and look to shoot, or put themselves in a place where they will then have to defend their life. And they put their lives on the line, certainly. So de-escalation training, crisis intervention training, bringing other resources to the community to help. And another part of it also, why I put together the Broward County Criminal Justice Review Board, is to look broadly at the criminal justice system. Policing is one aspect of it, but we also have the charging that's done by the state attorney's office and the justice that's dispensed by the judges. And we find that there are disparity in all of those areas as it pertains to the minority community, particularly blacks in Broward County. So that this board that I was able to get my fellow commissioners to join in supporting will look at the criminal justice system, policing, and bring about solutions through policy changes and help with implementing those changes to create a better criminal justice system for us here in Broward County.
All right, so moving on to my second question. Is there a way to conduct police psychiatric evaluations monthly? Meaning check-ins? You know, if our lives are on the other end of the line, we should have the closure and we should know that they are stable enough to save our lives, because that's what our parents and adults pay taxes for. So
I agree with you totally that that's something that we should do. I don't know if monthly is the frequency that we need to have. They do a mental health screening before they get hired, but it's not something that I believe is done at regular enough intervals in order to ensure that they're still in sound mind and capable of dealing with situations. If they ever get involved in a shooting or some situation like that, they do go through some mental health treatment and evaluation. But on a regular basis, I don't believe that it's being done, and that's a very good idea that I will ensure that I talk to the sheriff of Broward County, Sheriff Tony, about. I know he's put some things in place where he's now doing monitoring on a regular basis of police officers who have had any kind of run-in with the community that hasn't been in a positive way. So there's some monitoring that's being done right now through Broward County Sheriff's Office. But understand that they're only a part of the whole policing efforts in Broward County, that cities have their own police department also that are governed by the cities themselves. And unfortunately, Broward County as a government, the county government, does not directly manage any of these law enforcement agencies. They are managed directly by the cities, or the sheriff's office is elected to manage his department. And the city management comes through the elected officials hiring a city manager. That city manager then hires a police chief, and the management of that police department is run by that police chief for that city. In the case of Broward County, the sheriff's office, he's elected every 4 years, and he has direct control over his budget that is submitted to us at the county. It's about $1 billion that we vote up or down. If we don't vote for his budget, he has a way around us, and that is to go to the state to get approval from the state. So there are fixed things within the budget. One of the largest area in the budget, by the way, is for the jail. That's about $280 million per year that we contribute to jail to house people who are charged locally. Now, and that's an area that I think we need to work on, reducing the number of people that we actually get into the jails. So we have two systems to help with that, and that's the Juvenile Civil Citation Program, and I was able to pass the Adult Civil Citation about 2 years ago. What these do is look at minor offenses, such as loitering, maybe having an open container, shoplifting, minor things that would not, and maybe you might have a minor scuffle that no one got hurt in. Instead of arresting someone and send them to jail, which costs us $161 per night as taxpayers in Broward County, we find an alternate route to get them to pay for their wrongdoing, but also to find a way forward where we can put a program together that they then go through with bringing resources, whether they need mental health support, whether they need addiction treatment, or they need how to get a job so that they don't shoplift, some training in that. So that's brought to the table with the civil citation program. We found that the juvenile civil citation has been very, very effective in keeping young people out of jail. When we issue those citations, 90+% of the kids, the young people, complete the program successfully. And the recidivism rate, which is the rate that they go back into the system, is less than 2%. So that's a productive way for us to spend dollars. And in fact, we have saved over $16 million of taxpayers' money by putting a system like that in place.
Before you continue, Raul, there is a question along the same line coming from Ms. Raul. It's saying, is there a different and specific criteria used for officers who will work within the schools as resource officers? If not, what is your position on implementing community policing as a standard for those who will be working within the schools?
Community policing, I think, is absolutely important. The folks who police the community, for one, ought to be representative of the community that they police, so that they have a better understanding of the lived lives of those people who they are over, and get to know people and understand issues that they might have. You know, some folks might have mental issues. Some may be from impoverished households, and understanding that would be helpful. The school board would set the standards for hiring those folks inside and the cities would work with them on that. If you see on the board, there's a couple of websites for mental health, and it gives you a little background on the criminal justice review board. Previously, a previous one.
Thank you very much for your response. Go ahead, Raul.
So the next question, the third one, this kind of hits close to home, but can there be a plan established for students facing expulsion to receive a fair trial? For example, if it is determined that a student has a mental illness, there should be competency test, and they should not be sent to Cypress Run or an alternative school because they're not competent at what they've done. So that's one thing.
Raul, that's a question that would need to be addressed to the school board. I know that they made some adjustments over time to ensure that there are processes in place that provide for help to students like you just described. But that is something that is run by the 9-member school board member oversees the board. Superintendent Runcie is the head person there. And there's actually a student involved with that from the student government councils that you have.
Thank you very much. We have Kaijer that also has some questions. And Kaijer questions are, do you have a plan set for an interactive after-school program for students who need an activity to avoid getting into trouble with social distancing? If so, what is it?
Well, in Broward County, we support the Boys and Girls Club. We actually fund 3 of them directly. I find them to be probably one of the best after-school program that there is. Children get a meal. They also get assistance with homework, and they're open until about 7 in the evening time, so parents can work a little bit later. So that would be one area that I'd say you probably want to look to do. The county in of itself doesn't have one specific, but the Boys and Girls Club is one that we provide a tremendous amount of funding to help, a couple of million per year to help them with their operations. There's another one that I'm familiar with also, and it's the Key Club. That I'm a former vice president of the Kiwanis Club of Lauderdale Lakes West Sunrise, and I know that they do a tremendous amount of work with helping young people. I would say this, that young people should get involved within their schools, where there are clubs there. That's a good way for you to work towards contributing to the betterment of the community to begin with anyhow.
Kaijer, go ahead and ask your next question, Kaijer.
Okay.
Do you mind sharing on the screen?
I'm on camera.
Okay.
All right. Young minorities do not know how to swim, and many kids drown every year. What type of affordable swimming lesson programs will you provide in these communities so kids can learn like how to swim?
So there's another program that we fund at the county, and it's called Swim Central. And they are located in many of our parks throughout Broward County. There's a phone number on the screen for you to contact them at 954-357-7946, or you can email them at simcentral@broward.org. It is certainly an important thing to learn to swim. Many of our young people drown as a result, but let me give you another upside to that. if you want to become a police officer or a firefighter, you got to learn to swim, especially a firefighter for fire rescue. And unfortunately, many of our minority students, particularly black kids, are not represented well in the fire department, and swimming is one of the big issues that keep them out. I've worked with Swim Central and other programs to help with that. So there's a phone number there for someone to call to get some help from Swim Central to get into swimming.
Okay, that'll be all.
Thank you, Tajir. Dr. Shaw has another question. She says, Sheriff Tony spoke specifically on the campaign about working with chapters of the Divine Nine with their various rites of passage programs. Is the county commission also involved? If not, can you commit to becoming involved with human, financial, and time resources?
Well, it so happened that I just gave to, I think, 5 of the Divine Nine some funding that was left over from my account. I gave to several of those Divine Nine sororities, fraternities to help them with their programming. And also the Black Lives Matter, and amongst others. And the Sun Sentinel did a scathing editorial against me using taxpayers' money for that. And maybe you ought to respond to the Sun Sentinel and tell them they don't understand our community well enough because they don't have diversity in their editorial board. I believe they don't have one writer that's black other than a sports writer. So I'm supportive, and I've been supportive of the Divine Nine for a long time, work with many of them. In fact, one gave me an award, I believe, last year for my effort in support. It is powerful that we have these nonprofit organizations on the front line helping to build and strengthen our community. Whatever I can do to help, I will. Our budget process is a bit tedious, and we would have to have a contracting program with you directly. I support Sheriff Tony's efforts to put, I think he's got over $200,000 that he's utilizing for that program. He and I speak frequently, and he's planning to do more, and I encourage him to do more also. That's probably one of the most direct way for us to support his funding, and know that his funding is a part of the Broward County budget also.
Thank you, Commissioner. Tajir will ask question on behalf of his classmate, Chanel. Go ahead, Tajir.
What motivated you to get into city government?
That's a very good question. So I mentioned earlier that I've been engaged in the political arena for a long time. In fact, at the young age of 15, I met one of the former prime ministers of Jamaica, Michael Manley, and spoke with him for a little while. And that kind of got me interested in what was going on from a political standpoint. But then I migrated here. And as I told you, I got involved with Andrew DeGraff and Wright's campaign. I was a part of the student government body at Broward College. I was a freshman senator there. I also worked on Jesse Jackson's campaign and every presidential campaign since 1984, contributing in some way or the other to help those campaigns. But what really directly got me involved is serving on the Political Action Committee for the Realtors Association. I was a co-chair of that candidate screening committee. And I interviewed all the candidates in Lauderdale in 1998 for office. And I talked to them about the blight that was happening in Lauderdale and the fact that we had on one side of the street drug dealers selling drugs at Mission Lakes Plaza, what was then referred to as Deep Side. 19th Street and 55th Avenue. On the other side was and a lot of misery. So I thought that the answers they gave me weren't good enough because they thought nothing could be done for the most part, and that it wasn't unusual for that stuff to happen in urban areas. And there was a tremendous amount of blight. So I decided I would get involved, and I started volunteering my time. Actually, I did Martin Luther King work days within that area, helping to paint homes, fix landscape some lower income people's houses, and a lot of work. So that really propelled me to get involved. I started the Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce after getting elected in 2004. And I tried actually three tries before I got elected. 2000, I lost by 117 votes. 2002, I lost by 335 votes. But in 2004, March, I won with over 700 votes to spare. And then I got engaged. I got together with some smart people, and we put together a Lauderdale Education A+ program where we supported our schools, reimbursed teachers who utilized money from other pockets to supply students or supply their classrooms. We also built on our education advisory board there, and we did a good amount of positive things. So that was my first entry in to the political arena. We cleaned up 55th and 56th Avenue, really doing something, I think, very positive there to change the dynamics as to what occurred in that area. So in 2010, I won the seat to the county commission, and here I am serving you at the county level. The county has almost 2 million people, 1.96 million people in Broward County. We also have a budget of $5.4 billion. We provide support. We provide support for the sheriff's office and their budgeting. We also are the entity that provide the funding for the supervisor of elections office, property appraiser office, amongst other entities in Broward County.
Thank you, Commissioner. Bernard would like to ask you, how did you start getting money to provide for yourself?
How did I start? I'm sorry, repeat the question.
He said, how did you start getting money to provide for yourself?
Oh, so I give a little story. The first formula of funds I earned was actually working as a clerk at 16 years old in Jamaica for an election. I earned, I don't remember exactly how much, but I can tell you what I did with the money. I bought a Bible and an Oxford dictionary that my mom says she still has that Bible. So that was the first earning that I have. And then I worked here for $2.30 an hour at a place called Texas Meat Packers while I was at Broward College, and later got involved working at McDonald's while going to school, and they promoted me to be a general manager. That made me a decent amount of money, and I kind of got that business bite and ran that store, became a supervisor, and bought my first home when I was 22 years old. And that intrigued me also, the real estate business. So I later got involved in the real estate business. I own a company called Broward Realty now. At our peak, we had over 80 agents, and we're completing 500 to 600 transactions per year. I still invest in real estate along with what I do here at the county. But more of my time is now dedicated to being a part of government than running my real estate business. My daughter is now somewhat helping with that.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Bernard also wants to know, are there programs for kids who want a job?
So each year there's actually a program for summertime that is funded by Career Source Broward. And that's a good place if you're in an age group that could do that. Career Source Broward is a place that you could go to see what the summertime program is. You got to get in early to be a part of that program. It's coordinated somewhat with the school board. So that's one place. There's also internship programs that's available wide. I do some of that myself here at the county, and especially when I have campaigns for office. If I'm running for office, the largest number of people who I work with that gets a small amount of funds from my campaigns are young people. In fact, in 2016, I had 85 young people involved in the campaign from 22 years and younger. We also use that as a mentoring tool to educate them about government, to educate them about careers, and to really let them understand how important it is to conduct themselves well and to work with others.
Thank you very much. Dr. Shaw would like to know, are there term limits on the Broward Commission, and what is your position on term limits? And what are the next steps for your career in politics?
Someone is setting me up there, I see. So there are term limits. You get to serve 3 full terms in office. Each term is 4 years. But if you were to come in on someone else's term, as I did in 2010, I served out the last 2 years of Commissioner Joe Iglesias' term. That doesn't count against the 3 full terms that you get. So I have the ability to serve as much as 14 years, 3 full terms at 4 years, and then an additional 2 years. My term, I'm in my final term before term limit hits. So I'll be able to serve until 2024. And my aspiration is to continue to serve the community at whatever level that the opportunity lends itself. I'm not sure exactly where that is today, but if someone wants to promote me somewhere else, I'll be happy to be of service to the community. And there's some talks about some other offices that people want to encourage me to go into. But when the time is right, I'll make that decision.
Thank you, Commissioner. Bernard Ward again wants to know, how do I get started as a commissioner?
Well, I tell you this, it really is about getting involved within your school today. Look to see what you can contribute to making your school a better place. Look to see what organization exists within your schools that you can join. And that's a good way to really understand how to work with people. I was a Boy Scout. I served on my 4-H club as a secretary for that group while I went through school. And as I mentioned earlier, at Broward College, I was a freshman senator. So that's where you start. You start by looking to see what needs exist around you and trying to find a solution to those needs and bringing people together to do that. So if there's something you see that needs to be done in your school, that's a good place for you to start. Look to see where needs are and try to find solutions to those needs, and that will propel you forward. And as you serve, you will grow.
Thank you, Commissioner. Dr. Shaw would also like to know, you say hail from Jamaica. How does your family and friends who still reside in Jamaica feel about your success here?
Oh, they're extremely proud of me. I spoke to my aunt this morning, Aunt Vivian. Not Skype,
Zoom.
WhatsApp. She called me on WhatsApp and videoed me in. Aunt Vivian is approaching 90 years old. She wanted me to come and visit, but unfortunately with COVID, if I were to go, I'd have to be confined for 14 days within that house. And I don't know that I want to do that at this point in time. So I'll visit next year. My mom's here, my dad's here. My sisters and brothers are here, but I have aunts and uncles and cousins back in Jamaica who are, yes, certainly proud of the fact that a little country boy from the hills of Hanover is able to come to this great country and contribute in a positive way.
Thank you very much. Kaiser, could you ask the next question on the behalf of Chanel, please?
Yes, ma'am. If you could change one thing in our zoning code, what would it be and why?
So one of the things that I'd like to see us change, and I've attempted to do this, but I didn't get enough votes, and that is to have what we call inclusionary zoning. What does inclusionary zoning mean? It means that when you build developments, you include affordable housing and market rate housing within those complexes, so that you don't have these complexes and these communities where only folks with a whole lot of money live. We need to provide affordable and moderate income households the opportunity, and low income households, the opportunity to have a place to live so they don't end up on the streets. Many of your teachers will have a difficult time affording places to live in Broward County, and we need to lock in some affordability in the housing marketplace to ensure that people that work here in essential services that don't usually get paid very well are able to live in Broward County so that we can continue to be productive and grow our economy.
Okay. Another question is, what has been your biggest learning experience during this time of dealing with COVID?
You know, I always knew that we as human beings are connected, but that was highlighted more than anything else. Understanding that the virus started in China and it has gone worldwide, and it got there because people are connected to each other. We travel, and when we look at our local community, that's how the virus gets around. It spread from person to person and some direct contact with them. So it's essential that we work together to build a better place for all of us. It's really critical that when we look at life as human beings, we realize that we are on this planet together, we're in this world together, and what affects one of us certainly can affect all of us. And we think of climate change. That's another big area that we really need to be looking at. It's not affecting us as directly as COVID-19, but indirectly it is affecting us, and it will even be worse for us in the future if we don't come together and work together as one people, one race, the human race. So it's essential that we looked at that. So that's basically something that's highlighted as a result of this COVID-19. I was able to bring the mayors of Broward County together for meetings along with our hospitals and with our health care professionals. The Florida Department of Health, Dr. Paula Tachi was very helpful, and look to see how we deal with the issues. And we fared better than many other communities. We still are in a pandemic, and our numbers are not the best. We lost less lives in Broward County than they did in Miami or even in Palm Beach, even though Palm Beach has less people than us, because we worked together to deal with the issue that was in front of us.
Thank you, Commissioner.
My last question is, are there any non-COVID scams circulating in Broward County that people should be aware of?
Well, there was quite a bit of that, especially at the onset of it. Schemes about PPPs and folks sending emails out asking for donations and scam phone calls. The sheriff's office have been very helpful in being out front on those issues and tampering them down. as they can. There's actually a fraud hotline that if anyone knows of someone doing something, they can call 866-720-5721, 866-720-5721.
Commissioner, and from one of our middle school student, Travis Foster, wrote, as a Black community, what can we do to prevent the killing of Black people?
So one of the things that we must advocate for is better policing, of course. That's an important thing. Community policing is an important thing that we need to do. But part of what I think that oftentimes I see missing is we see the marches, we see the activism, and that's good. But when it comes to voting and election time, to put people in office who will make the hard decision to create equity for all people, we don't show up enough to do that. That's some place that we need to really look to do more to ensure that the policymakers who set policies to determine how policing is conducted are the ones that are going to be elected, and not the ones who really don't see that there's an issue or understand the issue. So that's a very big piece of what we need to do as a community to change those dynamics there. I mean, certainly another part of what we need to do is be more supportive of each other's and our businesses. Because what you find is this: when there is high poverty, high unemployment, I don't care what the ethnic background or racial background there is, you're going to find higher crime within those communities. So equity in terms of economics is a critical part of what needs to be looked at also. And W.E.B. Du Bois, who was one of the founders of the NAACP, actually did some research back in the 1920s, 30s in New York, looking at immigrant population that came in, and he studied communities that had a large number of immigrants. And when they arrived with not much money, and those communities really became packed with low-income people, crime spiked. But as they were assimilated, and he looked at the Italian, the Irish, the Jewish community when they came in, and as they were able to be assimilated and started earning money, the crime rate dropped, the community changed. And that's a big thing that we need to look at as a community. How do we ensure that we're doing everything we can to create economic parity? When you look in this country, blacks on average make 61% of white households. Black households income is 61% of white households. Blacks have 1/10 of the net worth, the wealth that whites have. Blacks are likely to be twice as much unemployed as whites. So there's a lot of things that we need to do, and that's why I started the Racial Equity Task Force, to look at all these different areas and to find solutions. And it shouldn't just come from the Black community. The wider community ought to do it also. And in fact, City did a study that was released in September that showed from their study that over the past 20 years, this great country lost $16 trillion in gross domestic product, in economic output. $16 trillion. And if we were to fix these inequalities, we could grow the economy by another $5 trillion. That means every person, black, white, whatever your background, would benefit, because we'll be creating greater economic output, which would lead to greater prosperity for everyone. So there's a lot that can be done, and that must be done for us to build a better community for everyone.
Fajir has another question for you. He says, what do you think we, and I believe when he says we, he's talking about the Black community. What do you think we do well, and what do you think we need to improve?
That's a very good question. I can tell you that we are highly religious. compared to other communities. And that's a place that we have utilized over time to empower communities. I don't know that the churches are as engaged as in the days of Martin Luther King, and I think that we need to look to get them more engaged there. Part of what we need to improve on is how we actually support each other. And that caused division in our community. I attended the Million Man March in Washington, D.C., and one of the lessons I came away from that with is how Willie Lynch taught the establishment, the white community, how to keep us down, and basically says pit them against each other so that they're fighting each other and they'll always be subjugated to you. And unfortunately, that has worked. So he says, put the ones who've been here a long time against the one who are just coming. Put the lighter skinned ones against the darker skinned ones. Put those who are more educated against the ones who are less educated. And just divide them all up. So unity is something that we must engage more in and understand that when you are the group that's struggling the most, the way forward is really to unite and to collaborate with each other, to build and strengthen ourselves so that then we can be more competitive and create greater opportunities for us to be prosperous.
Thank you very much. I have a question from Mia in middle school. She says, how can she feel included as part of a community?
Well, I'd say to you, Mia, you are a part of community. What I would recommend you do is to get engaged in the community. And I mentioned already that get involved with your school, with different groups that you may have within your school that are positive. Probably get involved with your student government to be a part of that student government body to help build and strengthen your school. And as you get involved with different organizations, you're going to feel more a part of it. You're going to feel valuable because you're contributed in a positive way towards making the community better. That would be my suggestion to you. And it could be outside of school also with your church, with other civic organizations or social organizations that exist that you can become a part of.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Jaden Robinson from middle school, right? What can you do to make sure the graduation rate for Black students increase?
That's a very good question, and I can tell you that one of the main points that I raised with Superintendent Runcie when he first got the job many years ago. That's something that we must work together on to make that happen. And in fact, within the broad Black Action Plan, we speak to that, where we get many more of our civic organization engaged in helping. And I must say that our Divine Nine, which is the Black fraternities and sororities, have been doing a pretty good job with that. I will continue to advocate for that, as I did when I got elected to Lauderdale, putting together the Education A+ plan, where I got the city to fund it at $100,000 per year. I'm encouraging other city officials to reach out to our schools to get engaged, to be a part of that community, to support our young people, to ensure that they are headed in the right direction.
Thank you very much. And I have also another question from middle school where they said, how can you help to improve poverty in the Black community?
Okay. All right. So we don't want to improve poverty. We want to get rid of poverty. We want to change those dynamics, and that's a big part of what I've done throughout my life. In fact, that's one of the main reasons I got involved with real estate, because if you study home ownership and property ownership, you find that is a way for you to leave something for future generations. and to break the cycle of poverty that so often exists in our community. So I do a lot of advocating and education in terms of people owning their own homes. Even though I'm an investor who owns rental property also, I encourage people to own, and we'll let them out of a lease if they're buying with no problem. So that's one piece. But also, when I got to Broward County, we have a small business, minority and women-owned business, black-owned business fall in the category of CBEs. When I got here, part of what was read is that I got here in 2010, 10.25% of those procurement went to those groups, of our procurement went to those groups. Today it's 39% because I've been insistent that we are inclusive of the community. So I have small black-owned businesses that when I got to the county were subcontractors making a couple $100,000 a year in contracts. Now they're doing multi-million dollars worth of business in contracts. So there's a tremendous amount of work that we can do to ensure that we're taking care of that.
Commissioner, Mr. Bentley would like to know, are there funding coming from the county government for the school's after-school program?
Well, other than what we fund to Boys and Girls Club and some other organization like those, no. But that basically is done by different organizations. We support them. It's not something that we do directly. That's not a part of county government. We have some programs in the unincorporated areas, and cities do that also. We only have a small unincorporated population, so we have programs at in the unincorporated Central County area, such as Washington Park and Roosevelt Gardens. We actually have a summer program and an after-school program that the county run in those centers that are in the unincorporated area. The cities would do some of that within their own city boundaries.
Thank you very much. Raul, you may ask your question.
All right, thank you. So is there any funding towards Black-owned businesses that have been destroyed by riots?
Well, I don't know that I can identify any Black-owned business in Broward County that has been destroyed by riots. We didn't have that situation here in Broward. We certainly had demonstration, but we didn't have destruction of businesses here in Broward. So in other areas, there might be. I can't speak to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have a quote that was spoken by His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie at the UN, and in his speech, Bob Marley took that speech and he turned it into a song called War. He spoke this in 1963, and he spoke it before the United Nations, and he said that until the philosophy withholds one race superior and another inferior is finally and permanently discredited and abandoned, that there will be no peace. That until they're no longer first class and second class citizens of any nation, that until the color of a man's skin is no more significant than the color of his eyes, that until the basic human rights are equally guaranteed to all without regard to race. Do you believe with the new task force that you have created that you would move in that direction more faster than it would if you did not have that task force? Do you believe that with this task force now we will move towards equality and tolerance and understanding and goodwill?
I believe so. That's why I work to create that. I am certainly familiar with that song, and know that it came from Emperor Selassie. And it is true that until we create a society where all people feel fulfilled and fully a part and equal, we will have issues. Certainly wars, yes, fights, yes. But what we're doing with those separation and equality is we are not creating prosperity for everyone. And those who are actually contributing to keeping communities back is actually hurting themselves. Because if you take from someone the opportunity for them to live to their fullest potential and to be as productive as they can be, less is being produced for you to enjoy, no matter what your status or your race or your ethnicity. So certainly we haven't seen the numbers of wars as we have before. We still have wars in different places, and it's oftentimes on ethnic and racial lines, and that needs to stop. And this task force for Broward County certainly is a step in that direction, because in that task force we included a large number of different people. In that task force we have large businesses, small businesses. We have blacks, whites, everyone, including the Hispanic community. So it's a league of cities. It's all the cities in Broward County. Of course, the school board, urban league. We're trying to get bankers on there. We're trying to get the public defender's office, the court system involved, the business community, pretty much everyone to the table to work to create solutions and implement policies that will bring about these kind of changes so that we can have a more prosperous community for everyone.
Thank you very much. And for those who want to be included in a screenshot that John is trying to take, you can show yourself on camera so that he can take you. I thank everyone who participated, and I thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you for taking time out from your very busy schedule to address our students, and that our students now have answers to pertinent questions that they can now go back and make some decisions based on the answers that you give them. Our principal, Dr. Harrigan, would like to address you.
Again, Commissioner Del Holness, I just want to thank you for your time this morning. Again, in the program you created back in Lauderdale, I don't know if you realize it, that funded school. When I was a teacher over at the BA, Boyd Anderson High School, benefited from the program. And yes, I happened to be in one of those Teacher of the Month, and I did receive some money, some funding based on that initiative to support schools, to support teachers. So again, didn't realize it back then that you were deeply involved with that. So, but I just want to say thank you for your continual support of education, continual support, and obviously the work that you're doing locally to really move the community as a whole, but especially the minority community, my community, your community, our community forward. Again, thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to speak to our students, our teachers, our staff. I also want to thank you because Dr. Charo is director of all the alternative schools. Some of the questions she was posting, I want to thank her also for coming on board and participating with us this morning. Again, I truly appreciate your support. And I will take your offer about, I know about Career Source. One of our initiatives is really, we are 7th grade to 12th grade. So one of our big initiatives is around job and career. And so I will definitely reach out to Career Source of Broward and ask for anything you could do to continue to assist us. We do send some of our kids to participate in the summer program, but we would like to really open up internships and obviously jobs to our students while they're with us, because we believe, like you said, if they are empowered, provide some economic opportunities, we know their life have been changed. And we have a wonderful program that provides internship with the city of Pompano. Since we're in Pompano, definitely we would like to extend it for Lauderdale and throughout the county, because we serve really from Sunrise Line, Boulevard, all the way to Booker Line. But again, thank you so much this morning for coming out. I know you're a busy man, and I appreciate you investing in the life of our students. And I believe that we've learned a lot today, and they will continue to benefit and go in the right path. Again, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And thank you again for coming out.
Well, muchas gracias, Missy Ampil. Thank you. Thank you. But let me just in part and say this to our students. The future of the world is more in your hands than it is in mine, because you're going to be here much longer than I, on average. So I would ask that you do everything you can now to understand that you own this world, regardless of your ethnic background. This is your world. You're equal in this world as a human being. And as such, find a way to be contributing positively to uplifting others and uplift yourself as you go along. And I believe that you'll have a very fulfilled life if you were to do so, and we'll create a better world for all of us. Thanks to all of you who put this together, to John Casbaro for engaging me as a part of this event. I actually helped to fund his program when I was in Lauderdale also. Got it into Lauderdale, and we spread it out throughout Broward County.
Commissioner, you are correct. John has done a great job, and we've been partnering these past 3.5, almost going on 4 years. And we do thank John Casbaro for the work that he's doing in supporting MyFin and now My Futures Now, which is exposing students to more careers, and Solution4Change, which is having this dialogue with you and other civic, governmental, helping and supporting officials in our community. What I would like to do, Ms. Barber, you could end the recording. What I would like to do is everyone who would like to participate in taking a screen picture shot before you go, Ms. Commissioner, if you will turn on your camera, and then